Welcome to the Diversity Connector podcast, where we explore the rich tapestry of human experiences. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and together as we dive into conversations that bridge cultures, challenge stereotypes, and celebrate the unique perspectives each of us brings to the table. Each episode is a journey through stories and insights from a kaleidoscope of voices, each sharing their colorful narrative. Whether you're at home, on the go, or just anywhere in between, you're now part of a community that values understanding, inclusivity, and the beauty of diversity. So plug in your headphones, get comfortable, and let's connect through the power of our shared stories. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Diversity Connector podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Diversity Connector. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Thanks, Gertrude. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm Ruwangi Fernando. I'm an AI enthusiastic and a researcher and a consultant. So anything about technologies has been my passion throughout my career. Of course, technology have evolved. So currently it's AI. So that's where I kind of land myself is my technical expertise. I currently am living in Melbourne, and then I arrived in Australia for my PhD. So I was an academic basically my whole career, starting with just after my bachelor's and all of that. I worked in Sri Lanka, but I was attached working with many other universities across the world in terms of doing my work, administrative and also the academic research work. And obviously, it felt the right time to do a PhD. And then I got an opportunity in Victoria, in Melbourne at Victoria University to pursue my PhD. Of course, it was something that I loved. I was a CSRO Data 61 scholar during my PhD, and also I worked with the Department of Transport. My AI expertise is I aligned myself in transportation kind of subject area for my PhD, but of course, the models that we use are universal, global, can be applied in any context. But I believe our conversation here today is more about diversity, and something that I came to Australia. One thing that I realized is, of course, coming from Sri Lanka, I could see there is so many opportunities for everyone, but I couldn't see these are being accessible to everyone. Especially for women of color in STEM. When I say women of color, it's a very broad terminology. So I like to consider, if you consider yourself as a woman of color, then you are in the group. Something like, it can be a second generation or a first generation migrant, or, we love to have the Aboriginal community join us as well. So it's a very vast definition, as I said, but anyone feel challenged more than gender on their ethnicity, race, or any English not being their first language, all of that, that's where we welcome. But also we are very cautious about supporting the people who are in the journey, especially international students and temporary work visa candidates who are also in this pipeline sometimes to become Australians. So we support them as well. What we see is there is significant level of challenges because particularly in STEM, the focus was only on gender, but they were not paying no attention to intersectionality a few years ago. Of course, there is current focus, which is really glad to see, but STEM Sisters was started in 2017. So I hope that you can see that it's quite new conversation on intersectionality. What we do is it's not just about talking about the problem. We are really implementing solutions. We have a range of initiatives working on that. But the other thing is also I'm the co-founder along with my wonderful colleague, Dr. Molly Muse, on iSTEMCO and there. Again, we need women to be employed. We need women to be leaders. We need women to grow in those organizations into positions and really make change happen. So in order to do that in the STEM sector, we don't see sufficient women being employed and retained. So that's what something that we are significantly focused in iSTEMCO. So it's a social enterprise, and there is a AI driven tech platform to eliminate bias in recruitment. Both of these organizations are using the trying to fill the gaps in the industry, what we see currently. And through mainly iSTEMCO, we really focusing on employment, but also we are thinking about entrepreneurship for STEM women, because when women are running those organizations, they do know what the challenges that they went through. So there will be more opportunities for women to grow in their organizations. So therefore, we are big on entrepreneurship for women, especially for STEM women, and then employment, retention, leadership for STEM women, and also education piece is important. So it's a wraparound, complete in hand, like complete solution piece for women in STEM, and that's for all women in STEM. And if I speak a little bit about the DARE platform, it's diversity, equity, inclusion, and retention is what we spelled out from DARE. And DARE is an AI-driven platform which enables, to remove recruitment bias from the recruitment process that we see. It's been backed by so much data. So if you have a not English sounding name to your accent and any foreign university qualification, not having Australian experience, all of them are the critical biased elements that what we see as a problem. So it can be the age, it can be any other factor. So what we only present to the employers through our platform is your skills and your experience. So we are using technology, especially AI. So that's something very dear to me, that I'll be able to use my background in technology to really enable this to our women. So it's a startup company, and we are growing on that as well. So these are all the initiatives that I'm currently working on. And so I can say that I am fully involved in the diversity inclusion space, specifically in the STEM sector. So, in addition to that, I also sit as the Diversity Inclusion Committee for Australian Computer Society here in Victoria. I'm chairing the committee here. So we are addressing, in particularly on technology, all related aspects of diversity and inclusion. So how do we should leverage them? Because it's high time that we understand diversity and inclusion. It's not just the right thing to do. Is a must do, because with this new and emerging technology going so forward, the only leverage that we would have is our diversity, because that's going to be our unique selling point. And to stand strong in this competition, that's what we need. So I don't want anyone to see that this is just like, a right thing to do, a nice thing to do. We should welcome women. We should welcome all these minority groups, into our organization. It's a must. I would say this: you can get extinct if you don't do so. There are so many examples in this arena, starting with Nokia to so many other organizations like Blockbusters completely getting rid of by Netflix. Likewise, we need, when we are thinking about technology, we can get extinct if you're really not focused on diversity. But diversity is very easy. But what is really questioned is the, inclusion, because diversity is a representation of your society. So having a diversity higher, you can simply achieve that. but people wouldn't stay longer in their places, longer in their positions if they are not being welcomed, if they don't feel belonged. So that's what we need to work on. So that's what I do in my day in, day out. I just consider this as a job, but I think I'm a very passionate person on this topic. So I'm hoping to work with all of the leaders, anyone in the community of as a stakeholder who is interested in understanding, who needs support to achieve these goals. We are here to support you. And as a community, as an organization, that's what our mission is driven by.
You have your work cut out for you. We are living at a time where AI technology is really taking over. And it makes me wonder what the impact is going to be on diversity. So there's a number of things I want us to dive into right now. So could you share your insights on the most pressing challenges that are faced by women of color in STEM today, and how initiatives like STEM Sisters and iSTEMCO address these challenges?
Yeah. So, main with STEM Sisters, we have identified, because STEM Sisters is like complete focus is on women of color, because I believe when we are trying to fix systematic issues, you need to have that specific focus, right? So that's
Mhm.
important. Without that, if you're just providing solutions, like, basically no one will benefit from that. So when we started STEM Sisters, we identified there are four key leaky pipeline issues that we see, like, in terms of representation, not having, mentors, or, people to look out, they like, someone exactly similar like you, the stereotypes, opportunities to networking, opportunities for career progression. Likewise, we have identified main key challenges what these women go through, right?
Mhm.
So therefore, all our STEM Sisters initiatives are addressing for them. We have quite a lot, because the simple reason is we are all different. Even we are, say, women of color, there is so much diversity within us. So
Yes,
if I
yes.
give you an example, we have our mentoring program. Again, our mentoring program is very unique. There are so many other organizations providing mentoring, but the reason why we have our mentoring program, we provide a mentor who is in your STEM discipline, but also who is a woman of color. So someone who has been in your shoes, maybe two stages, stages above you, but who have faced those similar challenges. So when you talk about what you need, what you're going through as a mentee, they can resonate with your experience, and they will tell you how you can manage that during your journey. So that's so vital. So that's why we have it. So for some, and then we have our ambassador program, because it's very important to showcase, because women of color, we are representing 56% of Australian university qualified STEM women are women who are born overseas. So we are basically the majority in
Yeah.
STEM women in Australia. But if you consider looking at who's been celebrated, who's been asked to speak upon, at panels and all of that,
Mhm.
very small represented, next to none. There is increased progression now. I can see there is an increment, but it's not sufficient yet, right? So
Mhm.
that's why we have our magazine. So we thought, okay, how do we get media attention? It's hard for us. We are a small non-for-profit. So why don't we have our own? So it's Magnify. It's a digital magazine called magnify.au. So what we share is stories about women. So we do every 3 months a magazine, and then it's dedicated for sharing quite a lot of stories of women of color. But again, they're from different stages, not someone who have really tackled and at the kind of pedestal level, but also who are
Mhm.
in the journey, who are celebrating small milestones as they go along. And then we
Okay.
have our LinkedIn group called increase awareness of opportunity. So someone who is coming new, it takes a while, like based on your personality and all of that, takes a while to create your tribe, create your network, create your
Yeah.
industry connections. So where do you start? LinkedIn is the best tool that I think should be doing to have in this case. So therefore, we have a group. We have over 2,000 members there, and the group is only sharing opportunities. So it can be awards, it can be grants, it can be employment opportunities, it can be special programs, all of that. So it's a community where we are sharing with each other, so that even you're starting new, you
Yeah.
have 2,000 other women of color in STEM in the group to talk to reach out to, and all of that. So
Yeah,
these
that's
are
really
just
necessary.
yeah, these are just some, but there are quite a lot. Even we are addressing the challenges. That's something, because not all, as I said earlier, not everyone is the same. So for some women, how they look is also a challenge, because of course
Mm.
your hair is black and then you can be brown or black or whatever. So not that it should be any sort of a challenge, but it's someone feel challenged upon it. So how do
Mm.
we support it? We do an annual event called Dress to Express. It's one of our fun events, but that's
Mm.
where we really support. What we say is, of course, this is who you are, but don't try to change it. Of course, a modest change is required, but don't try to lose yourself by your change, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you simply can't afford to do that, because then you're simply, you're living someone else's life, or trying to live someone else's
Mm.
life, not you. So
That's so
likewise, we
true.
have so many activities around with our other things what we do to address these challenges. So we are nailing
Mm.
all of the challenges that we see as our. But in terms of iSTEMCO and DARE, I think that's where really what we say, because when we are talking about STEM, it's about elevating women of color in STEM to that equal level, because
Mhm.
Australia is big on equality, right? But
Yes.
before equality, we need to get equity, because not everyone
Mm.
is in the same place, right? So
Yeah.
STEM
Yeah.
sisters elevate that, try to get them into that same level, same ground. But then iSTEMCO and there is really challenging. Basically, all STEM women face these challenges, employment issues,
Mhm.
not just because of name, sometimes because of having a career break, because of they had to take maternity leave, or their age, or
Yes.
whatever the reasons, because they are not just assessed based on their skills and their qualification, they are being assessed based on their accent or their
Mm.
age, or and all of these breaks that they have taken. So that's what we are addressing mainly from iSTEMCO, and try to talk this point to say this: having women in your organization is not just the right thing to do. You
Mm.
will have significant profits by having the right diversity, represented in our organization. That's what we drive as a mission with both
Mhm.
iSTEMCO and DARE.
Okay. So you've received several awards for your work in promoting diversity and inclusion in STEM. How do these recognitions impact your mission and the broader conversation around diversity in STEM?
Yeah, that has been crucial, because it's not easy. Still, I'm a woman of color. So I have, like, in this journey, I do have these issues as well. I should say, like, I'm a confident person. I was able to nail down personal challenges that I went through. But a conversation about intersectionality, all of that, was very challenging to the society, because people didn't had no context of
Mm.
understanding what these are, because they had no one, with our experience in their circle. So
Mm.
they were never open up for this understanding. So these awards and these opportunities are really was the opportunity, like, was the opportunity for us to explain this, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why we continuously apply for these as well, because the simple reason, we need this recognition, right?
Yeah.
With the recognition. And also, STEM Sisters being a non-profit, and we don't charge anything from our community for our services. So we rely on the grants and supports given by local councils, to local government, to federal government. So of course, we didn't had no grants until 2021, early 2022. But even now, what we are operating is because of that funding. So we need
Okay.
to make it ourselves relevant, and also to showcase what we do, because we
Mm,
know there is impact, but still, in terms of societal, broader society, we need to showcase. So I think these awards and recognition has been really supportive in that line, seeking
mm.
support and also really bringing this conversation to the community.
Now, maintaining the momentum in diversity and inclusion initiatives can be very, very challenging. What strategies do you use to ensure that these efforts are sustained and continuously effective?
Yeah, it's actually it's a harder battle always. Like, still
Mm,
I struggle, honestly saying, for STEM sisters, we don't have a sustainable financial model because
right,
the simple reason is I am finding it very challenging to put a price tag on any activity for the community. So I
right.
believe, because community is so vulnerable, because STEM sisters is for women of color in STEM who come new to the country and all of that. They are in a
Mhm.
most vulnerable position, so therefore it's hard for them to contribute anything, like, and I
Yes,
don't want to miss out anyone because of having any price tag. So what I've
right.
been pushing is the agenda for seeking support from because, as I said, having them in the workforce, having them contributing to the society is a gain for everyone. So
Yes.
it's everyone's agenda to support them, so
Mm,
therefore I seek
mm.
support. But it's, as I said, it's not a good financial model in any case. So that's
Yeah.
why iSTEMCO is a social enterprise. So therefore, it's a model that we established myself with Molly. So it's a social enterprise. So therefore, there is a sustainable model, financial sustainable model around it, and
Okay.
therefore it's also like a marketplace in where the industry and the community both gets along. So
Mhm.
therefore,
Okay.
there is opportunity for us to create services for the industry. So currently,
Mm,
we are having our careers fair. I would take this opportunity to invite the STEM industry to come along and join. So you can come up with a sponsorship package. We have been having this for the last 2 years. Have been greatly successful. We
mhm.
do are in partner with Australian Computer Society, having the event at the Docklands. Last year, we had 213 employers join from all the STEM industry, and over 250 women came along to the event. So this
Right.
will be a bigger event this year. So if you are really, because a lot of STEM employers say they can't find women where these women are. We
Yes.
know where the
Yeah.
women are, and women do trust us. So if you wanted to find women highly qualified,
So when
uh,
is the event?
yes, it's on the 9th of May, so almost
Okay.
1 month away.
Okay.
So if you reach out to us via iSTEMCO, through Molly or myself, we'll be able to assist you in the
Give us that
journey.
information. Now, can you discuss a specific systemic barrier that you've identified in your work and describe the approach that you've taken to dismantle or mitigate its effects on women of color in STEM?
Yeah. So one of the main systematic barriers is, as I said, there are a couple of. One of the main is opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Because there are opportunities, but because they are not in the right network, right? These
Mm-hmm.
opportunities will never come through, right?
Yeah.
In Australia, if you take like jobs, it's only very few are, whether they're advertised, they're not particularly for the purpose of really recruitment sometimes,
Right.
right? So it's mostly through referrals and recommendations. Nearly 50%, 60% jobs are being filled, right? So
Right.
if you're not in that group, simply you won't get an opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
especially getting that first job is really, really hard, because then you have the additional barriers. Not knowing the opportunity is the one, and not
Mm-hmm.
being part of the network is going
It's
to be the
another.
second. And
Yeah.
then your intersectional challenge, like being a woman of color, or having an accent, English not being your
Mm-hmm.
first language, all of that comes along, and then your qualifications are experience are not in Australia. So I
Yes.
think the LinkedIn group which we have created for this particular purpose has been immensely helpful for
Right.
the community. So there, likewise, like I can give so many examples. As I said, the magazine that we do. Again, we see
Mm-hmm.
there are so many women of color, but there is no visibility for us, right?
Yes.
There are so many STEM experts in all disciplines. Like, there was simply next to none in 2017, 2018. Very
Mm.
few are being known who are women of color who
Yeah.
who were celebrated, like, being awarded or celebrated or have a news article in media. Very, very few. There is an incremental
Mhm.
change right now. It's also a
Right.
women problem as well, but that's why we created the magazine, right? It's
Right.
hard to get these media around us, so why don't we create something for ourselves, right?
I love it.
So
I absolutely love it. So let me go on to ask you about younger women who are wanting to get into STEM. What advice would you give to young women of color who are currently pursuing or considering a career in STEM?
yeah. So STEM, what I first say is for all women in STEM, having your tribe or having your sisters is so important. STEM
Yeah.
is such a demanding career. Of course, if you, like, you need to have the passion. That's the first thing. Find
Yeah.
something that you're of interest, because STEM is something, like, not that I'm disregarding any other work, but you have to constantly learn, constantly improve. Things are
Mm.
changing
Mm.
in different types of technology. It is very radical changes, but
Yeah.
even in any STEM domain there are significant changes happening, so it's a constant learning and growing. So your
Yeah.
passion is number one, right? But again, I want you to understand, because STEM is not just about being good at maths or good at science, right? So it's
Hmm.
a vast area of jobs and opportunities are in STEM,
Yeah.
right? Especially with technology, it's so broad, right? So even you're a creative person and not necessarily the mathematics, expert or the genius person, you still have an opportunity in STEM. Like
Yeah.
95% jobs will be STEM, right? So we are not like, basically with technology, the STEM is very broad now, right? So it's a
Yes.
broader cap. But for young women, what I say is it's a masculine industry, some certain compared to others, like engineering, construction is so masculine, or mining is so masculine compared to the others. You may face a lot of challenges. You may have to be the spokesperson to talk about diversity in your organization, and then you need to have this part of your job. So demand yourself. So one thing that I would say, to have a good sisterhood around. It may be hard to find sometimes within your organization because there is no much women,
Hmm.
but even surrounding, I think a good sisterhood is something that you really need to maintain, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
asking for help, asking for support, asking for guidance, and having that, and have a good set of mentors. But I would say, like, I don't want to, negatively say, but it's definitely a challenging journey. Why we are here, what you are here trying to do, what we are trying to do is to make that pathway much easier for the younger generation. But
Yes.
still, there'll be certain challenges. But I think you shouldn't given up your passion for the simple
Hmm.
reason that, you know, like your organization or your STEM sector is not ready for women. We should push
Yes.
harder to achieve that, and
Yeah.
take it forward. So yes, that would
Okay.
be my advice.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the future of diversity in STEM. How do you envisage the future of diversity and inclusion in STEM fields? And what steps should organizations take now to prepare for the future?
Yeah, it is of course critical. As I said earlier in my introduction, it's going to
Mm.
be the number one uniqueness that you're going to create in your
Yeah.
organization. That's going to be your unique selling point for your organization, right?
Hmm.
So it's so important. And one thing that we have to get is what we are like, through STEM, through any organization, what we are producing is services or products for our society, right?
Right.
In order to, if you want to really leverage, your, your product or service and really get that customer feedback, your to growth in your organization, what you
Yes.
need is to have these people representation of all of the diversity categories in your organization, in all the stages of your organization, not just at
Hmm.
the starting point, but throughout the top leadership.
Yeah.
So, because those voices, those experiences, those perspectives, those views is what is going to really benefit you to go against your competition. There is
Right.
nothing else would matter. you know
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way how technology has evolved, anyone can come into the arena in most of the industries and really do a radical change, and simply that has happened before. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Simply diversity and inclusion, people should make that shift in your brain. This is a must have, otherwise we can get extinct. you know
Yeah. Yeah.
it's important to have that understanding. It's not just anymore the right thing to do, right?
Yes.
So but the starting journey of diversity inclusion can be hard, and can be sometimes people think ethically, okay, is this a merit based appointment, right? That
Hmm.
is what, like, a lot of people think when diversity hiring comes in. But we
Yeah.
need to get started at one point, right? We have to get
Yes.
started somewhere, right? So of course, if that person is eligible, if you don't have sufficient women in the organization, or any other diversity category or representation is not missing, then you need to
Yeah.
create that opportunity for that. And then when you then you have to do a deliberate diversity hire for it. And when you
Hmm.
call upon it, and then you say if that person is matching with the basic, like the requirements of the job, that's the starting point, right?
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
shouldn't make them feel they are a diversity hire and they are not belonged.
No.
That's what
No.
the inclusion matters. But that's the
Yeah.
starting point. Once you do one or two attempts of that, then the culture will shift. You need to
Yeah.
get a starting point, right?
That's
So
so
that's
good.
very critically important. And also, I would say, as a message for all women and all underrepresentation groups, when you are given an opportunity, please make sure that you really use it, and you give that opportunity for other women as well, right?
Yes.
So I especially say this, when an opportunity is, if there is a board of 10 or board of whatever, and if they're just welcoming one woman and there are a couple of women who are suitable, don't fight among the women,
Yeah.
fight for more seats,
I love it. I absolutely love it.
fight for
Now,
more
my
seats.
last question. My last question for you is measuring success in diversity initiatives. How do you measure success of diversity and inclusion initiatives? And what milestones are you aiming to achieve in the future?
Yeah. So especially, as I said, we have range of initiatives. So what we do is we get feedback from the community. We really
Right.
check, like any program, whether that's STEM Sisters, iSTEMCO. We are still on the early stage of there. But what we see
Yes.
in all of that is this, like, immediate feedback. Then we check their progress within 6 months, 12 months, where they are at,
Yes.
right? In our ambassadors, in our magazine articles, so we reach back and ask where they are, what have you gained from this, right? What have
Right.
Of course we can see there is an, like, compared to 2017, right? I would say
Yes.
women of color wasn't in a position, didn't want to consider them as women of color, right?
Yeah.
That's where we were, right? Compared to now this is an open conversation. We are proud to call ourselves women of color, and so that's itself is what we see as work of ours, which has been really reflected in the community, and an
Yes.
opportunity given to, because it was a place that women couldn't voice that. We were not
Okay.
sure whether they should voice it or not. So with our initiatives, that's what we were able to bring to the society, and we are very proud of that, and we will keep on doing. We measure our impact in so many different ways. We will measure on the
Mhm.
individual's impact. Of course, it
Yes.
relates to the societal impact on a progressive manner, but also consider things what we do on a societal movement. So creating awareness, creating understanding about importance of diversity and how that can lead an organization for profitability to a market leader, and all of that is what we see as the impact of our work.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming online today and sharing your story with us, your wisdom. Your work in AI is going to be pivotal in changing the playing field for women of color in STEM. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. The Diversity Connector is bringing you a range of diverse stories and voices from people from all over the world, living and working here in Australia. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. And that's a wrap, everybody, on today's episode of the Diversity Connector podcast. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our vibrant and global conversation. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a tapestry of diverse perspectives. Remember, every story you've heard today is a thread in the larger fabric of our shared humanity. So, as you step back into your world, carry these stories with you and let them inspire you to embrace and celebrate the rich diversity around us. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these inspiring stories with more listeners. Do follow us on social media by looking for the Diversity Connector podcast for more updates. Until then, keep connecting, keep listening, and keep celebrating the beauty of diversity. This is the Diversity Connector podcast signing off. Stay curious, stay open, and definitely